Okay, so we have just wrapped up about three months of this wellness coaching, and you had gone through starting with some movement goals and some mindfulness goals. So how are you feeling now versus when we first started working together?
So, when we first started this, I was in a pretty low place, to be honest. And I just went through a loss, and I was grieving, and I was just like, I was not ready to jump into anything. Let's say that. I was apprehensive
Hmm.
to start. And I just kind of felt like I had no direction at that point. My mind was everywhere, my emotions were everywhere. And versus now, I think it's a complete night and day kind of comparison, because I feel confident now, more so than I was before. I feel like I have direction. And I think the most important thing is I feel like I can rely on myself for that direction now
Mm-hmm.
because I was given the tools to do that. So yeah, I feel great compared to when we started for sure.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. What do you think has been the best part of going through the coaching process together?
I think the best part has just been the support.
Mm,
The support has been great, and I, kind of like you, I'm a little bit of an independent person,
hmm.
and I don't like to rely on outside sources to get me anywhere. I try to find that within myself. And I think sometimes we forget that we do need outside support, and it doesn't hurt to get it. And it doesn't do anything but help, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the support was the big one for me.
Oh, great. So I'm so glad that you felt like this was a supportive relationship, and I'm glad I was able to help you um, kind of, I guess, find your self-confidence because you did the work here. Like all I did was kind of guide you in the right direction. But I guess what do you think has been challenging or difficult? Has there been anything like really hard about this process for you?
For me personally, it was mostly just dealing with feelings of guilt, shame, all those low feelings.
Hmm.
I wasn't able to complete a goal, or I didn't feel like I did well that week. And just trying to work through those and not make it a point of failure where I am spiraling downward.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty common. Like a lot of people deal with these feelings, and when you're in that downward spiral, it can be hard to get out of it. And so part of what we've been able to do together, and what I try to help people do is to get into an upward spiral, right? So you start with those tiny goals. And let's talk about how that worked for you, because we started with movement, right? And I remember, and I don't know if you remember, but we got about a month in and we're like, okay, well, you've hit your big movement goals, so what's next? And tell me about that. Tell me about that transformation and just kind of where you started with movement and where you're ending with it.
So, it was movement was definitely something I knew that I wanted in my life, a good routine, for many reasons. And I just felt like I didn't have a good structure set in place for myself to achieve a good routine, a sustainable routine, I should say.
Hmm.
Uh, and I have, tried many different things in the past regarding movement, and it just never worked for me. And I think what really helped with this coaching was that it made me realize that I can do anything I really want to do, especially as far as like physical
Hmm.
demands. I can meet those demands, and I just needed to prove to myself that I could, and I did. So,
Yeah,
and
you did.
I feel great now. I feel confident in my routine, and I feel like it's definitely something that I can sustain for the long term. And I'm really happy with it. I feel great overall, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's definitely been something that has transformed my everyday life
Mm.
into something a lot more positive than it was before. So
That's so great to hear. Yeah, and I know that in our last couple of sessions when we're talking about movement, I'm like, how are you feeling about it? And you're just like, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to add this to my routine and I might try some of that. And I love your confidence. Like you seem like you're just ready to get out there and take on the world.
yeah, I needed that boost. I needed that boost and the support and just, to know that I could do it. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you definitely can and you have. So, well, let's talk about I feel like you just moved through movement so fast and you just like were hitting your goals and knocking them out of the park. But then we got to the evening routine and some of this like trying to change that. And let's talk a little bit about that because we almost gave up on that, but you didn't.
Yeah.
And so tell me about that process for you.
So with that whole thing, it was funny because I didn't even really realize that I had had a routine like in place. It just, for some reason, it didn't register to me,
Mm-hmm.
but it did. And I think what helped me change that around is just tweaking small things about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that made it more accessible to me and it made it feel less daunting. Um, so, yeah, I think for me, it was definitely just the small tweaks here and there without having to like, totally revamp it, totally, because that is just to me very overwhelming.
Because I remember we kind of went through it and you're like, I don't have an evening routine. And and then we kind of tried to start one
Yeah.
and then you're like, well, here's what I'm doing instead. I'm like, wait, we do have an evening routine. And so we worked through that, which was great. But there was one session where you're like, I don't even want to do this. So how did you move past that?
I think I felt overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
by that because for me, an evening routine was really important as far as, it's a way for me to decompress at the end of the day. And so I like held that near and dear.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just the small tweaks and knowing that implementing that would in turn make my life a lot happier.
Mm-hmm.
Better sleep.
How is your evening routine going now?
It's going well. I feel like it's not being forced as where,
Mm-hmm.
we were kind of trying to delve into that in the beginning. It felt like I was forcing it. Whereas now it flows more. It's more of a flow. And I feel good and I realize the value it's brought to my overall well-being.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that's considering coaching but isn't sure if it's for them?
Haha. So I went through all of that actually in the beginning. Like I said, was very apprehensive and I truly didn't want to commit. I didn't want to commit to the 3 months. I was like, oh, so much can happen in 3 months. Why should I do this right now? I was going through a lot at the time and I just did it. And I said, you know what? What's the worst thing that can happen with this? I come out better on the other side. So for anyone, I would say do it. Just do it. And you will be happy that you did for sure. And
Awesome.
don't overthink it. Don't overthink.
Mm. Yeah, sometimes we get so stuck in our heads, right? We get like
We do.
stuck in our
Yeah.
minds and overthinking and overprocessing. And I feel like for you, adding the movement and adding some of these routines that, are gonna help you with that has been really, really transformative, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, now that we're wrapping up our 3 months, I know we have a couple follow-up sessions in a few months, which I like to do just to check in and give some support because it can be a lot to go from meeting every week and getting check-ins every week to nothing. And so, you're definitely welcome to always reach out to me if you have any questions, if you need anything, and then we'll have our follow-up sessions here in a month and then 2 months, I think. So How are you feeling now about continuing to like guide your own path and continue to work towards that person you want to be now that we're wrapping up our coaching relationship?
I feel very confident. I feel like have been equipped with the tools to move forward, and I really think this was just a big learning experience for me, about
Mm,
myself and
yeah.
how I operate, and this kind of support that I need, whether that be external or just internal. How to deal with the blocks that come up when
Hmm.
we're not motivated, we're not wanting to do anything this week.
Yeah.
I feel like I am definitely more equipped, and I'm ready for it. I
Oh,
feel,
that's so good
I
to
feel
hear.
great. Yeah.
Great. Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much for going on this journey with me. And I have loved just watching you grow in confidence and meet your goals and work through some of those feelings. And I can tell that there's been a big shift in you. And again, your confidence is just like 100% more than it was. So yeah,
Awesome.
thank you so much for being my
Thank you.
client. Yeah.
Thank you.
And like I said, you're always welcome to reach out. Definitely here for that. And, hopefully we'll see you at like a future retreat or an event, maybe a workshop. I'd
That'd be awesome.
love to have you. Yep.